You're listening to Bach to Bach, the podcast that opens up the world of classical music one beer at a time, and you are listening to our first ever mini-sode.
The mini-sode. It's an attempt to get to those topics that we don't really get a chance to reach during the larger episodes. They're going to be quick. They're going to be every other week.
Still featuring beer, still featuring music, but also giving you,
beer.
of course, I mean, what better way to do it? But also giving you great tips to become a better classical music participant, either as a musician or as an audience member.
Because the whole reason this podcast started was to bring people, to make it easier to get into classical music. It's so daunting to begin to listen to. So, and part of getting to know something is being educated about it and just finding little hints and tips that make it less scary. So these mini episodes are going to be coming out every other week, and talking about every topic under the sun. Today we're talking about
a concert etiquette, and we'll cover how to dress and look sexy for a concert later on, but which is always
a lot
important.
of tips for that.
A lot of tips, at least 6.
Spandex.
Just
lots of spandex.
Are we talking neon spandex?
Well, I'm just working with what's
you
in my
had that
wardrobe.
Spandex unitard.
I gave one away.
The neon
I gave
spandex
one away.
unitard,
Will Story.
Which, if you wore
listening,
a bow tie with it, would be concert appropriate.
I wore it to a bowling alley in Oregon once, and I nearly got shot.
I mean, you would think in Oregon, Portland, Oregon, they would be okay with it, but
no, it was a logging town.
Anyway,
yeah,
but
that's another story.
We're talking concert etiquette today. So before we talk about concert etiquette, we got to talk about the title of this mini episode.
It's
which,
important.
Maddie, what is it?
It's Gnaughty or Gneiss. It's Christmas time.
It's Christmas time. Hanukkah's over. You had your time. Sorry. You had 8 days. Actually, however, Christmas now is like 3 months.
Yeah.
In the Christmas season.
We were seeing trees go up in October. What the heck?
In my house, in our house, at Christmas, now you guys can vote and weigh in on this. A Christmas tree and all the decorations in this house, against my will, went up November 8th. That would be 1 month and 17 days prior to Christmas, which is 1 month and 17 days too early to put decorations up.
But who's counting? But if we're interested to hear from you guys as in these days before Christmas. When do you start your Christmas tradition? Send us a message. Send us a tweet or anything. We were talking to Dad, and he was saying when he was growing up. And I really love this idea.
It was overnight, like it would just...
You'd go to bed Christmas Eve with nothing.
And then you wake up.
And the entire house was decorated, lights, tree, which I think adds so much magic to Christmas Day.
Now, here's my only thing to challenge that. So, say you're an excited kid for Christmas.
Yeah.
How are you going to keep it in that you're not going to just, like, peek out every 5 seconds or run and interrupt and, like, say... what the fuck's going on? What's happening? What's happening? What's happening? What's happening? What's happening? And then anyway.
Well, you can see why that entire generation went to the cocktail how else is it going to see you through an entire night? Kids go to bed.
Yeah.
You gotta wrap presents, set up a tree, run lights. And bake,
crazy.
And you have to bake.
And it's so
unreal.
You don't sleep, and then you crash the next day.
And we all wonder why parents were sleepy in the morning.
So we're talking about the Gnaughty or Gneiss, and the reason why we're calling it this episode, which we'll dive into later. But we are a podcast as you know, that's based around classical music and beer. And the beer we're featuring, which ironically enough is called Gneiss Brewing Company, but Gneiss.
For all you geologists out there, you'll recognize that.
So we'll dive into that a little bit later. But we're gonna dive into our first piece because it's the holiday season.
Yeah. Get people into the spirit.
It's in the spirit. We are, I think, at this point, I can't count. 10 days away recording this.
By the time this comes out, this will be 3 days away.
3 days away from Christmas.
Yep.
So this is right in the heart of it. So this is something we've all heard. It is from the Nutcracker Suite by Tchaikovsky. We know the famous ballet, whether your kids have danced in it or you've gone to see a sibling dance in it. I was in the Nutcracker.
You were...
I was Fritz. I was Clara's brother. I did ballet for one winter to impress Heather Leeper in 7th grade.
And you had a bow tie the size of Rhode Island.
I had a bow tie. So basically, I never did ballet before in my life. And then Heather's like, you should try out for the Nutcracker. And I said... okay. And so I tried out and got the role of Fritz. I was Claire's brother. And I basically, my only job was to do a couple turns and break a nutcracker.
Heather, if you're listening to this, we do want to know, did it work? That's
no, clearly not.
It didn't work.
Clearly,
No.
Because it didn't work. I had the bow tie the size of an SUV. I had enough rouge on my cheeks that you can carbon date or figure out how long at what time of day based on the layers.
I'm gonna put the photo up on the website.
No, please don't do that.
But if you've watched Home Alone, which everyone has, you've heard this piece.
Yes, and so this is the Trepak from the Nutcracker Suite by Tchaikovsky. That was one of the most iconic pieces of Christmas.
Of
the Christmas season, yeah. I look at the most known are the Ukrainian Bell Carol, the Carol of the Bells.
Yes.
The Nutcracker. Yes. But the other one that we've always heard, and it's always done anywhere in the U.S. and around the world at the holiday season, especially in December, is Handels Messiah, in its entirety usually, or at least in most of it.
Yeah, one of the most emotionally moving, epic, incredible pieces to either sing in the choir, to play in the.
Well, I gotta be honest. As a cellist, it's not super exciting. It's you get like a few moments, and then it's pretty.
You remember that when everyone says that the instrument they wish they played was cello. You just remember that.
I know that because we're great looking people. Anyway,
it's true.
So the reason why we did this mini episode about concert etiquette, it actually relates to the Handels Messiah quite a bit, because if you've ever been to see it performed live, and we went all the time as kids, and both playing it and seeing it.
For us, it was the Melodies of Christmas with the Empire State Youth Orchestra, always second week in December, and we performed in a load of them.
It always finished. Every performance finished with Handel's Messiah, which is the last movement of the whole work, and of the first part of the whole work.
The Hallelujah Chorus.
The Hallelujah Chorus, which we all know. And we'll send you out on that today. But, if you've ever been in the audience for that and you don't know, it's kind of like whack-a-mole what you're looking at.
The uncertainty of it all.
Usually, concert etiquette with Handel's Messiah is you stand up. And you stand during the entire performance, during the duration of the Hallelujah Chorus, during that part. But so many audience members, like, either they half stand or they don't stand, or some people get right up and stand, so it just looks like whack-a-mole.
Yeah, and the folks who know to stand, and
right,
then everyone else takes that as a cue that, oh crap, everyone else is leaving, I got to get to the parking garage to beat the traffic. It's not that, people.
You're missing the best part of the Messiah.
It really is.
And even though it's done so much, it never gets old.
No,
but it's always
it's a goosebump piece or a chili bump.
It's a we'll do a last episode. We won't even dive into that. I'm just, as I quoted then, just reporting the news. But anyway,
It came from a belief that can't be corroborated. That at the London premiere, King George II stood as the Hallelujah Chorus started, which being king, and when you're a king, nearly in every country, when you stand, the rest of the room stands. It's the same with a president nowadays. When you stand, the room stands.
I have that all the time too. I have that effect.
Yeah.
But I walk to empty rooms, so it's
with hair like that, it's tough not to have that.
Not to, yeah.
So if the rumor is true, George II stood, which would have obliged everyone to stand. There's no actual evidence that he was there, or that he attended any of the other performances of the Messiah. But that's where the rumor started. The first reference to people standing appears from a letter straight out of that 1756. It was a good year.
That's a good year.
It's a good year. AC/DC released their first album.
Crushed it that year.
Which was 3 years just before Handel kicked it. So
the answer, like, to kind of, give a straight answer to this, if you are going to see the Messiah being played, or if whether an orchestra and a chorus, or just a chorus is doing this on its own, whether maybe they're just playing the Alleluia chorus, you should stand. It's what you should do. It's just concert. It's happening for 300 and something years, and it's not stopping anytime soon.
No.
And it's just the right thing to do. So if you hear Handel's Alleluia chorus from the Messiah, get on your feet.
Get on your feet. You can hold your hands. You can put your hands in front. You can clasp them behind your back. You can do a Ricky Bobby and have them slowly kind of rise up in front of your face.
Or you can do the wave.
You can use the wave.
Pop and lock it.
But make sure you're standing. It is etiquette. It's not a religious thing. If you know Kevin and I,
even though it is the Messiah, which it's a religious based piece, but it's not a religious gesture.
It's and we'll find if you do stand and watch the audience before you stand with this majestic piece playing, which again we'll play you out on today, you'll realize that it just makes it even more moving. And speaking of moving and movements, just
what kind of movements are you talking about? Classical movements.
We're talking about classical movements
today. So both of us being part of symphony orchestras for years and attending, and for those who are classical musicians, classical musicians, I suck today. Classical musicians or anybody who goes to, I'm going for that soon. If you attend the symphony often, you know this, but we want to clarify a couple of things. So whenever there is you're at the symphony orchestra or going to see a concert band, and there is a piece of music that had what's called movements inside of it, which means there are smaller parts to the overall piece. So sometimes it's 3 movements, sometimes it's 4, sometimes it's 6, sometimes it's 20. Who knows?
Like for example, a concerto will normally have 3.
Exactly. A symphony normally has 4. Yes, and
it's okay. It is okay not to know these things. You have to remember that when these pieces were written, this was the same kind of knowledge. People knew that this was what was done, just the same way that we know today that we'll just name any etiquette procedure. But and in the day, people knew that this was what was done. Just the etiquette was everyday knowledge, whereas today, obviously, it's not. It's not every day.
And it's also not the contemporary music. It's not. It's still being performed, but at the time it was what's new, and now it's not old, but it's in a different period that we still perform today.
Exactly.
So if you're always wondering, you always hear those people usually after the first movement or the second movement, no matter how fast or slow the tempo's going. You hear 5 people in the audience clap or a lot clap and realize that the orchestra's not done, and then it's the awkward.
And that's okay because it means that you appreciate what you're hearing, which is that's good.
And that's a whole other podcast. We'll get into that. But we want to talk about the appropriate time to clap at a symphony orchestra, or at a performance at any piece of music that has movement. So when you go to a concert, get a program. If the piece that you'll see a lot of the pieces, they're usually in bold.
Yep.
If the piece is just in bold and there's no writing below it that's kind of part of the same section, then that's just a piece by itself. And when the piece ends, it's done. That's when you clap at the end.
Yep. The programs you can find, wherever you get seated, there's always the ushers. They always have a stack of programs, and normally there's some lovely old dear who will be like, "Oh, you would love my granddaughter. I will."
She is so nice.
She is so nice.
Are they all Jewish? I mean,
but they get a program. it is worth it just to see the layout of the program ahead.
And so when you look at the program, you're reading through what the pieces they're going to play, and so say the piece by itself, just bold, nothing else. That's the piece by itself. Now, if you see a piece that's in bold and below it, you see indented, usually not all the time, but in italics that either again movements, 3 movements or 4 or more or less.
It'll normally be in Italian, which.
Not always. Not always. Depending on the composer. A lot of American composers now that have written symphonies write it in English. For the common man, it's usually in Italian.
Allegro, molto adagio.
So you'll see those. Fettuccine
Alfredo.
It's delicious.
Penna arrabbiata.
So what you're gonna do is when you see those movements in Italian, you don't clap between those. You wait till the very end of the last one. And sometimes those movements are called attacca. You don't know when they start and when they end. Attacca means attached.
Yeah.
So like sometimes usually a second, the third movement's usually not used, but most commonly done attacca, and. Depending on the composer, and so you might not know when one movement starts and one movement ends.
Yep.
But the big cue of knowing when to clap,
and this is big,
is usually the conductor's arms. If you watch the conductor, whether it's a chorus, band, or orchestra, if they're still in the air, that's when you don't clap and don't make an idiot of yourself. Don't be.
But we don't want to make. If you clap accidentally, it's not the end of the world.
It's close.
But it is appreciated because it means that you dig what's being played, but at the same time, there's this nice kind of pregnant pause.
And so you want, but if you do it, it happens. So it goes. Just like if you poop your pants, you can't do anything about it until later on. So.
Yeah,
it's not the end of the world.
Funny story about that. We can talk about that later.
Okay.
Not the poop in the pants? Not with me. with somebody I know.
Anyway. So good old poop pants over here is talking about this kind of stuff. Anyway, but you usually want to wait till the end of the movements when the conductor's arms lower to the sides and kind of relax, and you see the musicians also relax. That's usually the sign that the piece is over. And you probably, unless you're like the one ready to go on edge of your seat, ready to clap, you're that guy like, I'm going to be the first one. Usually you'll hear someone else before you, and then the whole audience will do it. And that's it's also a sign of gratitude. And if you start to see a standing ovation at the end of a piece, again, you don't have to stand. But usually, it's for the most part at professional concerts, if someone's giving a standing ovation, it was a pretty badass piece of music. Yeah,
you kind of resign yourself to being viewed as a dick, unless you're a paraplegic, unless you can't.
That's true.
But you kind of.
I do want to give a quick shout out and a great little tip that was cool, and a lot of symphony orchestras could benefit from this.
Yep.
Norman Huynh, we had on our first episode.
I miss Norman. We got to get him back on.
We miss him a lot. He started, and we mentioned in the first podcast, he does a thing called Symphony and Spirits, which is a kind of introductory course for 21 to 39-year-olds to get them to come to the symphony, enjoy the symphony, and understand while drinking, which is a great combination. Which is our podcast.
For the premise of what we do.
But what he did was, he makes these program cards just for Symphony and Spirits people, and he puts
you showed me one of these.
like an image of hands clapping at the appropriate times where to clap.
That's
which I think it's all it takes for the person designing the program, like 3 cut and paste, and that's it.
I think he referenced that during one of the in between bits when we were talking.
It's the simplest idea, and it also helps whether you go to the symphony all the time or you don't. Sometimes you don't know the right time to clap. Like I've listened to new pieces I've never heard before, and there's movements, and I'm not sure when one movement starts and ends.
Yeah.
And so knowing those little tips is huge.
And you as a conductor, obviously I'm sure you've experienced people clapping when they shouldn't. Do you make quite a distinct drop of the arms?
Again, your arms are the active part of being a conductor. It's what you do. Sometimes it's the hips, but mostly it's the arms.
With Francisco Noya,
it's always the hips. It's all about the hips. It's that drop of the arms, regardless of the length of the piece. And sometimes symphonies are hard to sit through because some symphonies, just like Beethoven 9, is an hour and 23 minutes straight.
It's massive, yeah.
I think, and that's for one piece of music. That's a long. As we say a lot about Justin Bieber. That's a lot of one song for a long period of time.
Which is why we're trying to get a younger audience into classical music, because right now it's more of an older audience, and they naturally have to go to the bathroom all the time, so they can't sit through the Symphony No. 9. We need people with strong bladders to go to the Symphony Orchestra.
Sorry, you can't come into the orchestra. You have a weak bladder.
But come to. But always.
This is the right time to go to the symphony. Like, so say you've never been before. Okay, say this is like you've never been. Like, this is the time of year. A lot of symphonies do Christmas pop stuff. I know Portland Symphony here does the Magic of Christmas, which is wrapping up pretty soon. But they, it's just a fun time. It's an interactive experience. And almost every city out there does some kind of holiday concert.
Everybody, community orchestras, and
so just go and get out of your comfort zone a little bit and just go. If you're being hesitant, there's nothing to lose. It's going to be something you're going to enjoy. In some aspect, you may not enjoy the whole thing, but you'll find something that you like about it.
Yeah, there's this website you guys can go to. It's started by this guy named Larry and some Russian dude called Google. If you type in classical music and then the name of your city, it'll come up with about 4 billion results in less than a second. And then from there, you can decide what is the best show to go
Google.
to. Larry Google. It's an unfortunate last
Swedish
name, but I do love films with subtitles. And so, but this time of year is some of the best times to go see an orchestra perform. Go search out.
Especially as a new listener, it's huge.
Yeah, because it's more accessible. You're going to find more new concert goers.
And now you can go in there with more knowledge than some people, knowing when to clap, and and when to stand and things like that. If you hear the Alleluia chorus, stand for it.
Yep.
And
I think it's time.
It's time to talk about beer.
Christmas, yeah.
It's Christmas and beer, and so we again, like we said, the title of this episode is Gnaughty and Gneiss. Naughty or nice, sorry. Either way, whatever.
And being the just witty guys that we are.
There's a brewing company. It's actually just celebrated the 2-year anniversary out of Limerick, Maine, which is not a metropolis of a place at all, called Gneiss Brewing Company, Gneiss. And if you are into geology, this is your shit.
I know a few geologists. Emily Harwood, up near.
I know any geologist.
She, an amazing amount of geologists end up going into sailing. So Emily Harwood Cashin, you're up near Rockland. Limerick is very close to you.
And if you don't know what Gneiss means,
a geologist.
I can actually read you a definition. Gneiss, Gneiss, is a medium to coarse grained metamorphic rock characterized by parallel, somewhat irregular, just like Belgium.
I just fell asleep.
Alternating band of dark. It's a rock. Okay, that's what it comes down to. So anyway, Gneiss Brewing Company out of Limerick, Maine. They name all their beers after different types. That's all geology based terms and proper nouns.
It's really cool.
And it's so we thought it'd be the perfect episode to feature them. Yes, they're not a major brewery. We've done a terrible job at focusing on like national beers.
We will get to national beers. There's just so many good beers.
If you guys want to invite us to your breweries out west and you want to pay for our flights, that's fine.
Yeah. Yeah. We're up for that. Tell them about the agro-geo.
Yes. So they use this term, and I think it's something that I've never heard before. But I really like the concept of it. It's called agro-geo brewery, and basically it's kind of becoming a completely self-sustaining. They're in the working towards being a completely self-sustaining brewery in the sense that they have a farm.
You were saying all the hops are grown on premises?
All the hops and grains, and they feed the animals those grains and they refertilize the soil.
The water they use comes
from there. So they're not. It's not something that happens overnight. It's gonna take years to build up, but it's one of their goals as a brewery. I think it's such a brilliant idea.
Oh, it's great.
Complete self-sustain. Especially there's a report recently that especially a lot of the hops we use in the U.S. are from the West Coast, and especially after this past summer, the hops have just been diminishing and becoming more expensive.
I didn't even think about that.
and they plan to sell, and hops, wheat, and the food, and sell right out of the brewery in the future years. So they want to become a completely self-sustaining brewery, which I think is such a brilliant idea.
And I'm going to self-sustain my beer glass here.
Yes, you are.
Let's get the sound of the pop.
Oh, that was less impressive.
Not
So
as
the
good
first
as
two
before.
times we opened this bottle of the Paleozoic, hold on, let me just take a look. This is probably the sexiest bottle of
bottle 99 of 200.
Yeah, this is so delicious. Basically, it's a bourbon barrel aged imperial wheat ginger porter, and basically Gneiss is a Belgian. They do a lot of Belgians. That's the focus of their brews. It's not national distribution. It's mainly Portland, and then they're in the tasting room and some other locations. But it's on draft in a lot of places around Portland and Maine, but not as available in bottles as yet. It's still a new brewery.
But there are a lot of breweries doing bourbon barrel aged.
Yeah.
Dark.
Yeah, I know
beers.
Allagash does those.
Yeah,
and
porters, stouts. If you may not have access to the Gneiss. What is it?
Paleozoic. Yeah.
Paleozoic, but this type of flavor is becoming huge, especially in the winter. So look for your local.
This is the time to get those comfort beers out, and we're looking at the porters, we're looking at the stouts.
Yep.
Those, especially those bourbon barrel aged ones, really have it. Now this is 8%, so it has a bit of a kick to it as far as the APV.
Which, considering we have nothing on our stomach, is starting to
do its job.
Go to work. Yeah.
It's super. It's intense, but it's comforting.
The ginger, I really enjoy.
It's. I don't get it till afterwards.
Yeah.
But it's the Paleozoic is. We got it at the beer cellar on Forest Ave, right by the Hannaford in Portland.
Yep.
And it's
the guy there was super helpful as well.
Helpful,
I mean, just knew everything about about everything.
And now I'm normally not a Belgian fan, so I think for me to drink a Belgian is difficult. So this is not my go-to. But it was good. The Flowstone, which is another one from Gneiss. This one is, and you're gonna notice you'll see the Gneiss logo on the Paleozoic, but they don't have it on the Flowstone. And this one's a little bit hoppier. It's not heavier. It's much lighter, but it's still a bit barrel aged, but it's much more that Belgian style.
Yeah, it's got to be cold.
It's got to be cold. Yeah, even towards the end of it, it started to get a little more skunky.
Yeah, I'm not I got to be honest. I wouldn't
order on our own, but we're also not Belgian fans. So for those who are Belgian fans out there, that's your go-to. My thing is very, very hoppy in your face IPAs.
Yep.
And your thing is stouts and porters and
yeah, I love the dark stuff.
Yeah,
the dark stuff.
So again, if you are a Belgian fan, especially, check out Gneiss Brewing Company based in Limerick. Their tasting room hours I think they're open several days a week. I'll tell you. I'm sorry. Wow, I lied. 2 days a week. Fridays from 2 to 7, and Saturdays noon to 6. And it's a bit of a drive to Limerick, but it's worth it. It's a beautiful place to go. But you also can find it in a lot of restaurants, and then also at a few distributors around Maine. Yep. I'm sure they're going to grow, especially as the Belgian market is something that's sought after.
If you're going to go that far north, make a weekend out of it. There's so much up there as well.
But if you want information about Gneiss Brewing Company, go to just gnissbeer.com, which is GNEISS beer.com, not like NI, like nice beer, dude.
Yeah, nice beer.
Anyway, so we're enjoying both of these,
especially the Paleozoic.
The Paleozoic is pretty awesome.
It's phenomenal.
So listen, we are coming to the wrap of our mini episode, and it's the holiday season. We're not going to talk to you guys until after the holidays, and you'll hear from us. Hear from us again before we hit New Year's, and we'll do some then. But
we'll do something special for you then.
But since it's the holiday season, we have our own wish list, and mine's Beyonce, just in general, just her as just around me at all times.
I have a feeling deep down she is a fan of classical music.
I don't know.
Jay-Z must be.
I'd love to find that out. I'd love that. That's the question I want to find out.
If the two of them come on, every child in the world.
Split?
Did they?
I think they split.
I have a chance now. There is, every child in the world gets to write a wish list to Santa. and there's no reason why we as adults don't get the same opportunity.
Oh yeah.
We are now 4.5 episodes deep in our podcast. Hopefully you enjoyed the last one about Star Wars.
If you haven't listened to it, it's 2 hours, but holy shit, it was
so much fun.
It was awesome.
It was so much fun. It could have been 6 hours.
It could have been forever. But that episode just, it's beside the fact that it was about Star Wars and John Williams. It was just amongst killer company. And Stravinsky, yeah. I mean, Stravinsky's great. But the company was killer, Darren and Griffin. But so if you
Nicole was there?
And Nicole Wolf as well. But if you haven't listened to that episode, please go back and either go on our website, bach2bach.com, or go right on iTunes and you can download it and subscribe to our podcast and find it there. But Maddie, what's our holiday wish list for the Bach to Bach podcast?
We have a list of 5 names that, as we see 2016 coming up, we would love to have on board. Now we realize we are shooting for the stars here. There are some big names here. In fact, they're all big names. But they all 5 of them would be instrumental in helping making classical music.
Now, are these like ranked? Or are these from hottest to nottest? Or are these like...
We could go from hottest to nottest.
Or are these from like naughtiest to nicest?
These are...
Actually,
there's some that I wish were naughty. There's 5 names.
You said that in a whispery voice. That was slightly creepy, but we'll let it go.
Well, yeah, there's 5 names here that are in no particular order. We just brainstormed. We've been tossing around these names for a long time. This is the short list. The list is massive. Folks that we want to talk to, and help and work with to help bring classical back to our generation, to the young generation, because it's great music. All right, but we're gonna run them 1 through 5.
All right, so number 1, this is mine. This is yours.
Number 1, the On Trio.
If you don't know the On Trio, they are a violin, cello, piano trio. AHN.
AHN. They're on
and
Twitter.
They're on point. They're on Twitter.
We can't do this because they have probably heard every pun under the stars. I think we're
the first ones.
They are not only stunningly beautiful, but they, which is of course completely out of
has no influence on us at all.
Impact on them. But they are not only amazing musicians, all 3 of them, but they are also groundbreaking. They have a footing in classical repertoire just as much as they have in contemporary.
I got to see them perform at National Educator Conference. 8-9 years back at this point, and it was pretty cool. But yeah, so the On Trio is definitely one of Maddie's top picks, if not the most top pick.
Please come talk to us. We'll buy you beer, or if you don't like beer,
we'll buy you beer. Number 2 is something I think both of us we're both a big fan of him.
Absolutely.
Chris Ely, who is going to become the new host of Prairie Home Companion. I don't know if you knew that.
I didn't know.
So yeah,
and my day is made.
When Garrison Keillor is done with Prairie Home
When you
Companion.
say done, do you mean dead?
No. He's
Just
retired.
Okay,
Yes, he's never gonna.
He's immortal.
He has to do the World Almanac thing he does daily on NPR. Anyway, Chris Ely has been a huge part of the bluegrass and classical community, because seriously, my favorite recording of Bach's Partita No. 3 is the one Chris Ely does.
It's him, yeah.
It's absolutely incredible. He's been he was a prodigy mandolin player by 12, and a virtuoso mandolin player by 16 years old.
He won the MacArthur Genius Grant, $500,000.
It was not bad. He is from Punch Brothers. Mostly from Nickel Creek. And he does a lot of collaborations with Yo-Yo Ma, Edgar Meyer.
Everybody.
Go Rodeo Sessions. Oh my gosh.
Yeah. Go Rodeo Sessions are amazing.
Well.
He is the guy that comes out. Punch Brothers will be performing, and they'll come out and they'll perform. Everyone wants some kind of whooping bluegrass thing, and they'll come out and perform Brandenburg No. 3.
Yep.
Or they'll come out and
they do Debussy, and that's on their album too.
Yep. Or Mozart. There's nothing they can't do, and he is one of the huge paving.
And just to back it up with Chris Ely is there's a whole interview online that I loved what he did about concert etiquette
with the Wall Street Journal.
Clapping and there's such a stuffiness about not clapping and getting excited. We go see rock pop concerts and we get we applauded everything.
Yeah, we get pumped.
We applauded them for just turning their backs or picking up their instrument.
Dave Grohl for breaking his leg.
Yeah. Oh, well, Dave.
Love Dave.
I want to pull up his own thing because he's been the man this year. But basically, he's he was sitting up in the balcony. And he said, I was listening to the Symphony, and the second violins just had this ribbing part, and they nailed it. And he out loud goes, yes! And everybody, turned at it and, shushed him. And he's like, don't shush me. They just kicked ass. They were so good.
Yeah, and he's saying, how can it not evoke emotion from you? In that same interview, he played a Radiohead passage, and then he played a movement from Brandenburg.
Yeah.
And both of them, he said, how can either of those not make you want to move and get a reaction out of you? And he is, if there is anyone who is versed in every type of music you can ever imagine, this is the guy. We would love to have him on the show.
Chris Ely is becoming the man.
And we just want
he's the man, but
we kind of want to get him half gazeboed on beer. So
number 3 is one that she's been a big influence on me, especially as doing alternative style strings.
Yeah, she's
classical crossover is of course the lovely Lindsay Sterling.
Yeah,
she became a YouTube sensation, and that's really where she became a sensation. And now she just put her new video out, and within 24 hours, had over 1 million views.
Yeah, it did because we follow her on Instagram and Twitter as well, and she. The speed at which just a photo is gaining in the tens of thousands of likes. She's making,
and she's still very humble too, which is such a cool thing to see.
Massively,
regardless of the success, they are doing a great job at bringing classical instruments and classical styles or classical music itself to life to a younger generation.
And granted, these people sometimes are twisting the boundaries of what a lot of purists would consider an unacceptable performance style or what. But the thing is, if classical music is dying and concert attendance has been on its way down since the early 80s, so what we're doing isn't working. So we have to adapt. We have to adapt. And people, these young people, Chris Ely, Lindsay Sterling, and the Trio, they have such a great energy, and they are the people, they are the pioneers that are trying to find a new way to bring people to include people. Number 4, and this is the reason I'm what I am. He's
Yo-Yo Ma.
Yo-Yo Ma.
Did you post that photo yet? The one with the Star Wars one with him.
It was
Yoda.
Yo-Yo.
Did you post that already? Okay, you did.
That's up.
Yeah, I saw the Yo-Yo.
I tagged them both. And Yo-Yo Ma just joined Instagram as well, so we instantly.
So Yo-Yo Ma, you at least should have heard his name at some point. If you don't know who he is the world's most famous cellist.
Yep.
And he's considered one of the 5 greats.
Yep.
He's currently I think the only living great. I think the rest have passed away for cellists. Yep. He's been such an influence. He has done he's transformed. He still is a classical composer mainly, but he does all these other projects like Operadog Brazil, the Silk Road Ensemble.
The Silk Road Ensemble is amazing,
and that's won multiple Grammys.
If you haven't, there's a lot of folks who might be listening to this who would appreciate Sarah Simsolo, a bunch of folks who love that kind of everything from Gypsy to Far East, Nepalese stuff. That he just went along the Silk Road and pulled out every style of music. And but you just gotta watch it.
And then he also still solos with orchestras all across the world and releases albums. And he is, I think he just turned 50. He still has a long career ahead of him, and he's just been the voice. When we were younger, he was on Sesame Street. He did the album called Hush with Bobby McFerrin.
That is one of our favorites. We still have that.
I still listen to all the time. So Yo-Yo Ma has been such an influence,
groundbreaking,
especially
in the true sense of the word.
Being a classical musician first, and then using his skills to just branch out and be innovative and be different, which is huge.
Who's your old cello teacher?
Bill Rounds.
Yeah, another guy who lost his cello in New York.
No, he didn't. No. Yo-Yo Ma lost his cello. Yo-Yo Ma, no, he didn't lose my old cello teacher. Yo-Yo Ma, there's a story where he left his $2 million Stradivari cello in the trunk of a taxi in New York City and recovered it.
I thought there was another guy that you took from who was sitting there, lost his cello, was crying, and this guy touched him on the shoulder and said, "What's wrong?" And it was Yo-Yo Ma, and he lent him his cello for the
sure, why not? I'm gonna go with it. That sounds like a great story, though. I don't know, but anyway. But it sounds like a great story, and I'm sure it was a great
we'll talk about
anecdote.
I mean, we got to roll right into number 5 because we've talked about it.
And I'm
going
to add a 6 to this, so I'm going to break protocol, and we're going to add a 6 to this, so you screw yourself.
Breaking the rules.
So, but number 5, and this dude is the freaking man.
He's the master.
He's the master.
He's got great hair.
He's so... And actually, if you just went to go see Star Wars Force Awakens, he actually conducted the orchestra that performed at the soundtrack for Star Wars.
Yep.
And John Williams actually did it as a surprise to the orchestra.
There's a great
which is the
photo
coolest
of Williams
thing. Nobody but George Lucas and John Williams knew that Gustavo Dudamel, our number 5 pick, was going to conduct the orchestra that'd be playing on the soundtrack.
And there's a great photo going around of him.
Him and John Williams.
Also surrounded by a load of stormtroopers.
Oh, that's right. Gustavo Dudamel, if you don't know who he is originally from Venezuela and was the one that started a program called El Sistema, which is based out of it's an education music program that basically gets students off the streets, and almost all students off the streets, and playing an instrument at a young age, and garnered guides them along the way to becoming great musicians. And then he became music director of the LA Philharmonic, which is one of the top orchestras in the world, at 26.
That's right.
And
you mentioned that.
And he's
this
young, like curly haired guy, but let me tell you, the definition of energy and being emotive and just being the man and being an inspiration for younger conductors everywhere.
What I would give to play in an orchestra that he was conducting.
Or see him live.
Or see
him on the podcast. Sure.
Senor Dudamel, if you are...
Senor...
Yes. When in Rome.
Hello, Senor Dudamel.
If you are listening, we would be honored if you would come chat to us on Bach to Bach.
So I gotta add one more after Dudamel.
One more, okay.
And it's another Christopher O'Reilly. If you don't know who Christopher O'Reilly is, he is the host of From the Top. And Christopher O'Reilly is From the Top is an NPR show. NPR, woo! That I love NPR way too much.
It's great.
It's basically From the Top is this show where basically every week there's a performance. Usually, I forget where. From the Top is based in Boston, but I forget where if they host every week at the same location or rotate it. But they feature the young, up and rising, kids and teenagers who are
you're right there, Bob.
I'm at that point. Who are just these prodigy musicians and making a difference in the classical world.
Yep.
And Chris O'Reilly is this outstanding concert pianist. So he not is only the host of this show, he accompanies all these students on their performances live.
I didn't know
from
that
the audience.
part of it.
But also, my favorite thing he does a whole album where he covers Radiohead on piano.
I definitely didn't know that.
That's one of my favorite albums ever. And so Chris O'Reilly, he's one of the people that's helping bridge the gap between our current younger generation and classical music.
We're going to write him down on the list. So, I'm writing him down right here.
Mr. From the Top himself, so I got to add him to the list because he's been a huge influence on me as a musician.
There it is. We got six inspired.
First 6 for 2016.
So
not for 2016, but we actually want them in 2016.
We would love them.
But this is our Christmas wish list.
So
or all of them at once, just one big podcast.
So for the 6 of you, expect a lot of heckling in the next year. Please, we'd love you to come on. We'd love to buy a beer or whatever drinks you fancy.
We want to thank you guys for listening to our first mini episode. I hope you got something out of it, whether it's our stupid banter or it's concert etiquette.
It was helped along by Gneiss, Paleozoic,
and the Flowstone.
And the Flowstone.
So Gneiss Brewing Company, check them out at GNEISSbeer.com. That's GNEISS beer.com. Yep. They're still a new and up and coming company out of Limerick, Maine. I'm sure they're going to keep growing.
With a product like this.
So anyway, we before we take you out with Handels Messiah, we want to say.
I want to say thank you. Merry Christmas to all.
Merry Christmas to all.
Thank you for listening. These mini episodes will be coming out in the weeks between the major episodes. Keep listening. Subscribe on iTunes. Subscribe on SoundCloud. But until then, look for a holiday concert. Find a symphony. Find a group performing, and go watch them. You won't regret it. This time of year is one of the best times to go see live classical music.
And before we send you out on Handels Messiah, if you're going to listen to this and you're driving, don't stand up.
Yeah, don't stand.
Don't stand while you're driving.
Yep.
It's a bad decision. I know it's proper. The do, as we just stated earlier, it's the right thing to do.
This is the exception.
This is your chance to be naughty and not nice.
Naughty and nice, bringing it back full circle.
Hey, full circle. Cheers.
Why don't we raise our glasses one last time? Merry Christmas to all.
Happy holidays, everybody.
Happy holidays, and thanks for listening to Bach to Bach. We'll see you next time.
Talk to you before the new year.